Right, welcome to the final video presentation for this academic year. The presentation is going to have a little bit of a reflection on what we've covered since lockdown, and then really going to set out the objectives over the summer that you need to meet to ensure a smooth year 2 enrolment process. Okay, so reflection on lockdown. Well, this is a list of maybe some of the key topics and projects that we've completed. I think having spoken to a number of you one-to-ones now, Boolean algebra perhaps is one of the topics which we will definitely come back to and hopefully develop more confidence with. It is usually the topic that year 1 computer science students find one of the most tricky. So don't worry if you find yourself in that situation. We will sort of come back and practice that again in the future. You've also been introduced to a new programming paradigm through OOP, so an object-oriented programming project where you had to create the warrior battle, which introduces you to some key OOP concepts and ideas around classes and objects. Okay, and that really I think is still a kind of area for development, and certainly over the summer would be, you'd be doing yourself a lot of favors if you were conducting video tutorials and activities on improving your knowledge of that particular project. Okay. Databases has obviously been the most recent topic, and we've covered quite a bit there in terms of the structure of databases and relating data across databases, and then also the use of SQL. And I think by and large, from what I've picked up from when I've been speaking to you, a lot of people seem fairly confident and happy with that topic so far. Okay, which is good because for many of you that is going to be a part of your project. And then one of the key things that we've done more recently is the project proposal. So you guys submitting the project proposal, we've gone through a process of discussing that, and then also in a little bit more detail in one-to-ones. You've also done a peer assessment project on the analysis stage, so the first stage of the project, which was really intended to give you a good insight in terms of how you actually go about doing the analysis and what the key characteristics are of a good quality analysis that will score high on the mark scheme. So hopefully you feel fairly confident about how you could maybe begin that for your year 2 projects. And then finally, a project which I really gave as a chance really to sort of link quite a few skills together from across the course of the year, and give you really the freedom to express yourself, and had some fantastic projects, and I'll talk about tic-tac-toe on the next. Yes, so tic-tac-toe described as a mini project because it was intended to give you an idea about the format of the year 2 project in terms of having to do some analysis to find out what I wanted in the project, do some design work and get familiar with perhaps some of the tools you might use to do that design work, and then the actual key part of the year 2 project, of course, is actually doing the construction, and the thing that I've probably focused most on when I've been awarding marks to this projects, and the quality of the technical code and the programming skills used, and then finally a little bit of testing and evaluation at the end, just to give you a flavour. Okay, I think key lessons coming out of the mini project was 1, time management. This is a very deceptive project. I think, as I've discussed with a few of you in one-to-ones, tic-tac-toe initially seems very, very straightforward, but actually as you got into this particular assignment and the programming of it, I think you discovered it was a little bit more challenging than you first anticipated. So things like leaderboards, introducing the OOP side, and the making an intelligent opponent to play against were some of the issues, and people really did struggle in terms of fitting their requirements in within the time frame that was given. So I think that is a big lesson to learn going forward into the year 2 project. It's very, very difficult to anticipate how long it's going to take to complete something, and basically the rule of thumb is the sooner you start it, the better, because you then realize the scale of the challenge a little bit sooner. You hopefully then deliver a working project by the deadline. Okay, and not such a big issue in this project if you didn't quite complete everything by the deadline, but in a year 2 project that would obviously cost you marks, and reduce your overall grade for the for the year 2 project. So yeah, time management I think is a big factor, and a big kind of hopefully an eye-opener there in terms of, you know, jumping on this project straight away and trying to make as much progress with it as you can. I think in terms of the programming, I think more people, or fewer people than maybe I would have liked, attempted to kind of go down the OOP route. So it kind of suggests to me that maybe that, in, you know, the initial tutorials you've done hasn't been enough to give you the confidence yet to kind of move out of your comfort zone of using procedural programming and just using subroutines and functions and so on, where you end up with these, and some of you ended up with some huge, massively long you know, programs which you'd just be scrolling down and down and down to find all these subroutines, and that is certainly an area to kind of think about and, you know, look at improving over the summer. We will come back to it, of course, in year 2, because we haven't really covered the theory, from me giving you actual activities and resources to look at. But, you know, the more work you can do there, the better, and it'll help, you know, with your year 2 project as well. And yeah, just on the programming, I think just that dependency on global variables and repetitive code is an area that we can look to improve on, and again, moving to OOP will help with quite a bit of that. Okay, so I'm just going to talk about objectives for the summer now, and there are 2 key objectives really that you guys need to fulfill for me to be happy that you can progress on to year 2. And the first objective relates to the analysis for your project. Okay, so you are actually going to start your analysis. I'm expecting you to have completed at least 8 pages of your analysis by the end of the summer, and this excludes the cover page and the contents page, so you can't just include those as part of that count, if any of you were having that cheeky thought. What you will need to do, of course, is set up your reports and your cover page and your table of contents, because you want to have that in place from the start and then just update as you go along. And if you need to, remember there are some video tutorials with, you know, relating back to how you set that up in your mini project. Okay. The other important thing to decide at this stage is also a backup strategy. You know, you do want to think about having a backup of this Word document. Heaven forbid if if something was to happen, you lost a memory stick, for example, and that was your only copy. Particularly as you get further and further into this project, it's going to be an absolute nightmare. So do think about how you're going to back up the work, and also think about that from a code perspective as well. I think again, one of 2 of you talked about that in your tic-tac-toe projects, where you'd encountered an error and then couldn't actually resolve the error, and the easiest solution might have been to just go to a previous version of the program before you made the change that caused the problem. So yeah, make sure you've got a backup strategy in place. Definitely do that. In terms of what you must have covered in the analysis then, so the actual work that I want you to complete within this, I do want to see a background problem / problem description, so basically a kind of introduction to your project, and kind of outlining the focus of it, and what the aim of the project is. It needs to be clear as well within your project as to who the end user or the supervisor is going to be, and why they've been chosen and why they're involved in this project. Okay, so that's quite a short paragraph. And then maybe here we're getting into more detail really, so we're beginning to actually do the investigation where the bulk of the work will be done. Okay, so I'm expecting that you do either an in-depth interview with your client or your supervisor, or you do a completed questionnaire with the users who are being involved in your project. Okay, if you feel that both are relevant, then by all means do both, but you must have evidence of some dialogue with a real human being or beings, using the interview or the questionnaire is the way you can do that. Okay. So that needs to be fully completed. Along with that, your additional investigation, so that your additional research, so completed observations. If the observation technique is a suitable technique for your project, then that should be documented and written up. I think for most of you though, a lot of the investigation is going to be focusing on analysing existing systems, or systems that are similar to the kind of program that you're going to end up creating, doing some analysis on those. Okay, for databases, document analysis, remember, is quite an important one to kind of utilize, and for the physics type simulation projects, then certainly the technical research is going to be an important part. of your investigation. Okay, so actually doing that research. And then the last thing that I would like you to include in the analysis is an outline of your core requirements and maybe potential extension requirements. Okay, and remember, they should be based on this research. Okay, so this research that you do up here should inform the requirements that you produce at the end of the analysis. And if you can just make sure those requirements are numbered, they're specific, and they're measurable. Okay, all this is going to count towards your year 2 project grade. Okay, you'll notice there's one admission here from the analysis that we will look at when we come back in September, and that is actually doing the modeling side of the analysis and using some of those diagrammatic tools to begin to think about how our system might actually be implemented. Okay, so don't worry about the diagrams. I just want you to really focus on doing all of the research really for this project. Okay, and bear in mind it's a minimum of 8 pages. If you want to do more, you can do more. Okay, yeah, I really hope you can. You know, you've picked a project that you're going to enjoy getting into and doing the research for. So, you know, if you want to do more, by all means do so. The deadline, by the way, Monday the 24th of August. Okay, so yeah, that'll be a submission through Teams. Resources to help you do this. So you'll see that this link at the bottom here will take you to a OneDrive where you have access to this folder, and you can find all the resources that you're going to need to help you complete the analysis. So if you're looking to understand how to complete an interview or a observation or document analysis, whatever it is to do with analysis, you can hopefully find information within here to help you do that. So it's all in one place. One of the key things that you might say that you're going to need in this project are the past projects. So you'll see there's 4 past projects that you can use. They're all exceptionally good projects in terms of their analysis, at least 7 marks. So they can be a good source of inspiration, ideas for how you go about documenting the information. Remember, the investigation that you're focusing on is all about kind of showing how the research has informed the requirements, and that's really, really key. So how this research has informed the requirements is that link, and these projects do that really well, and hopefully you'll be able to see that in the evidence. You've also got a investigation techniques video guide, so you'll find that in the folder as well, and that's me just giving you an overview of each of the techniques and explaining where you could use them and some key things to be aware of. You've also, to back that up, got some additional documents there to help you again understand how to actually utilize those techniques and document them. Okay, I've also included the analysis marking activity you did from a few weeks ago where you peer assessed some example projects, just to remind you again of like key characteristics and key things that you want to be thinking about when you're actually writing and documenting the investigation and your analysis. And then the last tool you've got to help you with this is me, of course, and you can email or message me. Over the summer, obviously I might be away at a certain point, so it might take me 1 or 2 days to actually pick up that email or respond, but I should hopefully get back to you within a week. Okay, but just a reminder, that link down at the bottom there is how you can access all of these resources here. Objective number 2, okay, so along with completing at least the 8 pages of analysis is the actual physical prototyping and upskilling yourself in preparation for the year 2 project. Okay, and I've just highlighted kind of 3 key areas where I think that preparation for some of you is going to be focused. So whether it's using and building your confidence in Unity, using OOP, of course, and databases. So figuring out the database solution that you're going to use in your project, and I've talked about in one-to-ones creating some mini prototypes and checking you're happy with how they're going to be set up and how they're going to function. Okay, so I want to see some physical evidence. I want to see something that kind of is relevant to your project and is going to be really helpful in terms of, from your point of view, clarifying that you've got the skills necessary to achieve the requirements that you've set out. Okay, so I want to see some tangible evidence of some programming that you've done over the summer. Okay, you might look to combining things. So for example, if you're looking at Unity, you might well want to look into combining that with an OOP based project or class based project if you search on Unity tutorials. Okay, so try and choose things obviously that are going to be relevant to what you want to create, but I think that's fairly obvious, and that's the second objective. Okay, and again, evidence by the 24th of August. Right, other than that, have a great summer, but use these 8 weeks wisely, because, like I say, you have to have this groundwork in place to enroll on to year 2, yeah, we're going to be doing ourselves a lot of favours if we can get this nailed.